Welcome to College MIS Matters, the podcast where we uncover the latest news, insights, and innovations shaping management information systems in further education colleges. Join us as we explore data-driven strategies, tackle key challenges, and share real-world stories to empower MIS professionals like you. Let's dive into today's episode. Today we look into the UK government policy paper released last week titled Generative Artificial Intelligence in Education. We'll break down what this guidance means for MIS professionals, including the opportunities and challenges it presents. Then we'll move on to our main segment, which is a follow-up on last week's discussion about the provisional 23-24 QAR, which was based on R14 ILR. We'll cover some software updates, data mismatches, and what colleges need to do now to ensure their QAR data is as accurate as possible, as even for particularly for 24-25, before it's too late. Let's get started. We've got Robin Wilson with us again today. Thank you, Robin, once again. The UK government last week, 22nd of January 2025, released a detailed guidance document titled Generative Artificial Intelligence AI in Education. This document it looks at AI tools like ChatGPT, Bard, and others as they're becoming an integral part of how we live and work, especially in education. So what exactly is this guidance about? It's essentially a roadmap for schools, colleges, and universities on how to approach the use of generative AI responsibly and effectively. The focus is on making the most of the opportunities AI offers while addressing the ethical, practical, and data security challenges that come with it. So let's look at opportunities for education. These are general things that most of us probably know about. So the document highlights some incredible opportunities for generative AI to transform the education sector. For example, AI can personalize learning for students by identifying their strengths and weaknesses and offering tailored content. Imagine a student struggling with algebra, getting bespoke resources that help them close the gap. It can reduce teacher workload by helping with lesson planning, generating worksheets, or even summarizing complex documents. These tools allow educators to spend more time teaching and less time on admin tasks. As we know, in recent years, teachers feel highly burdened by lots of administrative tasks. In further education settings, AI could support diverse learner needs, especially in apprenticeship programs or adult education, where personalized pathways and flexible learning are essential. But here's the thing though, while the potential is massive, the government also made it clear that we need to keep teachers and staff at the center of education. The idea isn't to automate everything, but to use AI as a tool to empower educators and students alike. Then let's look at ethical and practical challenges. Of course, like we know, there are challenges, like in anything, in any technology. The guidance points out the risk associated with AI use in education. First, misuse of AI. One major concern is that students might use AI tools to complete assignments or prepare for exams in ways that undermine authenticity and academic integrity. For instance, who is really writing that essay? And how do we assess learning if students are relying too heavily on AI? Because that's the thing, is reliance too heavily on AI is the issue here. And second, bias in AI systems. Generative AI is only as unbiased as the data it's trained on. This means there's always a risk of perpetuating stereotypes or excluding underrepresented groups. It's something schools and colleges must be vigilant about. Then third, data privacy. For MIS teams, data privacy is a significant concern. AI systems often rely on vast amounts of data, and ensuring compliance with GDPR and other data protection regulations is non-negotiable. As guardians of sensitive information, MIS departments will need to play a key role here. So let's look at implications for MIS professionals. This guidance is particularly relevant for MIS professionals who are often at the intersection of technology, data, and education. There are two key areas where MIS teams can make a real impact. First, we look at data compliance and security. Generative AI tools, by their very nature, interact with data. Whether it's anonymized student data for personalized learning or operational data for analytics, ensuring this interaction is secure and compliant is really very critical. MIS teams must stay ahead of the curve, understanding the risk and implementing safeguards. Then second, let's look at AI integration leadership. MIS teams have the opportunity to take a leading role in integrating AI across their institutions. By collaborating with teaching staff and leadership, they can identify AI tools that align with strategic goals while ensuring compliance with the guidance. So let's look at practical takeaways for colleges here. Here's what colleges should do now to make the most of this guidance. First, review the guidance, this government policy paper. Take some time to read through the document in detail. It's packed with information on how AI can be used effectively and responsibly, though you can say some parts are a bit vague and general. Second, create an AI task force. Set up a group that includes MIS professionals, teaching staff, and leadership, and probably student learners as well. Their role to explore AI opportunities, evaluate potential risk, and ensure that implementation aligns with the college's broader goals. I know some colleges already have similar groups, and a lot of colleges have made headway in AI within their college. Third, invest in staff training. AI can seem intimidating or confusing, so investing in training is essential. Educators and support staff need to understand AI's potential and limitations so they can use it confidently and responsibly. Fourth, develop an AI strategy. Start building a framework for how AI will be used at your college, ensuring it ties with your overall strategic objectives. Robin, so what have you viewed so far?
Thank you, Ben. Yes, so the government's released some guidance now on generative AI in education, which is guidance for colleges and universities as to how they can make the most of AI whilst also recognizing the risks and dangers that it poses, as well as that. So it's getting the balance right and using it for the good and not for the evil. So I mean, in the 90s, I was talking to somebody the other day, and in the 90s, they said they did their dissertation, their doctorate on AI, and you sort of think, did AI even exist back in the 90s? But it's been around, I suppose, in some form for a long time, but it's only recently that it's really starting to take off and actually become powerful and useful. And I mean, I suppose it starts off with the most it's about automation to start with, and for example, a door opening when you go to it, or a light coming on when there's motion, and then but that's just triggers that happen in response to something, and that's quite basic. And then you move on to the more advanced things like, for example, in the talking about the supermarkets, I was reading that said the other day self-scan tools are now going to be able to work out what vegetable you've actually got on them to weigh it. So it's not giving you a choice of 100 different vegetables to pick from. It's thinking, well, it's either this or that. So give you the option straight away. I think it also helps with sort of theft. I mean, that's not exactly AI, but it's comparing the basic model with a much more complex model that's taking into account a lot more variables. So it's sort of contextualizing and making connections to work out the answers to things. So the AI is sort of building on, I suppose, what's gone before and making it better. And at what point does it really become AI? And I suppose that's at the point when it's sort of building its own pathways rather than you predefining the pathways as to how it should respond. And that's where obviously AI can become very useful because it's actually generating its own information rather than just responding in a pre-planned way. Going back to this document that's been published by the government, the some of the advantages around it are personalising learning and finding the weaknesses in a student, the weaknesses in their knowledge and possibly experience in those areas, and then it could analyse the work they're doing to look at where the weaknesses are and suggest what improvements they could make. And that's the kind of thing that might take a long time for somebody to do that, for a human to do that. Whereas for an AI to do that, it can speed through the information, load it very quickly, and then analyze it, and then make suggestions. So that's how it can help the students. So it can help them sort of plan, structure their work, and make sure that every student's being I suppose every student's being differentiated and offered the best opportunities to ensure that they can learn, and they're guided towards being able to learn the best they can, rather than being just given the answers, which is not helping anybody. Because obviously, if they just kind of ask AI to write them an essay, and they don't do it themselves, then they're not learning anything. And when they are then employed in the field of healthcare, and they find that they're doing operations, and they find that they can't actually do it, I mean, it's not a way to be, and you can't proceed in that way. So the personalizing learning is a positive, and then for the teachers, that the advantages there are to help the teachers to sort of summarize worksheets, summarize information, and help them to structure their learning plans. And it can sort of look at all the stuff that is on a certain topic. If they give it some reliable sources, and then summarize that. And if they're experts in the field, they would know if that summary, they would know that summary was good. I mean, I wouldn't recommend you just rely on it without checking it. But again, it's going to save a lot of time in that sort of manual editing, copying and pasting, rewording, retyping, to typing things out to summarize the document themselves. If they can get the AI to do it, and they just have to check it to make sure it's accurate, then that's obviously a helpful for them. And then making sure that so yeah, so that those, I suppose those are the two, or the main key advantages. And then the dangers are the plagiarism from before versus the plagiarism now, because if a student is trying to cheat the system, what they used to do before was they would probably go on the internet and copy and paste some articles where they didn't actually fully understand what they were copying and pasting, and so it was usually fairly easy to detect because the writing style would be changing between the pieces of information that was copied and pasted. I mean, if, sometimes the font would change as well, and they'd end up with embedded hyperlinks that they hadn't taken out. So it and I mean, yes, the writing style would go from them writing in their style to a very highly academic, expert in the field writing, which is obviously not them. So you would then ask them about that topic and say, can you tell me more about that? And then it would become obvious that this had been all been copied. But now the modern plagiarism, where you take it from you ask an AI to write it for you, but AIs are always very sure of themselves, and this is often the problem when they're actually giving you, they actually do give you possibly false information, but they sound so sure about it that you almost tend to believe them. So it's again, it's written in a very, I suppose, knowledgeable and sure way. That all this information that's being given is completely accurate, and it's all being probably presented in a very academic fashion. You can actually ask AI to say, can you write this in the style of whatever, and then in the style of a non-academic, and then it might give something a bit closer. But I mean, the truth is, it is going to get harder to detect whether or not it's plagiarism, and you want to ensure that it is correctly identified. But I think it's, as well as the AI being used by the students to possibly, well, for the good and for the evil, um, the plagiarism tools are also going to be using AI. So you're going to be fighting AI with AI. So whilst the tools that can be used for cheating the system might be getting better, the tools for detecting cheating on the system are also equally getting better. So really, I don't think it's probably a cause for concern. There might be more sort of impetus for the students to go, can I just ask AI to write me an essay? Which potentially they wouldn't have, well, they couldn't have asked it to do that before because it wouldn't have been able to. So it is that sort of thing of it's making sure that I think what's important really is that the government have put this guidance out so everyone starts to think about it, because you all need to be aware of what's out there and what's possible, and the students will be using it no matter what. You can't, stop them from using it at home. You can't say you can never go on a chat GTP, GPT, but so they're going to be using it. So really, if they're using it anyway, you need to understand AI to a certain extent, so you can use it as a tool for good and to help them to differentiate their learners, maybe save time as a teacher, and also to be aware of how students, yeah, it could be used to support students, but also the dangers. And I mean, one of the other areas to think about is confidentiality of information and access to information. You may have maybe reports in your college where certain members of staff can access certain things and other members of staff can't. And if you've got an AI model that's hopefully there just with a little chat window saying, ask me anything, you start asking it questions and drilling into information, and it might be that it doesn't mean to disclose certain things. But for example, if you're in a very small data set, such as you're maybe trying to find out some information on a small department, then potentially, even if it doesn't tell you the name of the person, you could potentially get information that which you maybe wouldn't normally have access to, such as maybe information from the HR system. Um, and even if even sort of students' comments, if students have confidential comments which could be relating to, should really be only be accessed by student services because they are, dealing with the issues with the student. They're helping them with issues in their personal life potentially, or they're aware of those issues, so that they're able to support them within the college but better. But that's maybe quite private information that not everybody would normally get access to. But again, by asking, the AI thing certain questions, if it's connected up to these sources of information, it could potentially give information away that it shouldn't be giving away. So I think what the colleges and universities need to do is to develop an AI task force, as is mentioned in this article, to bring together the key people, ideally from the academic side as well as the support side, and probably involving IT, MIS, potentially other departments such as HR, so that the college as an entity is starting to think about the what's out there, how we can make best use of AI, and then train staff, because it is quite a new concept, and some people might almost shy away from AI, saying I don't want to do that, I don't need that, it's not relevant for my topic or what I teach. But I think AI could be used in a lot of things, and in design it could be used for modeling things. You can even ask Paint now, Microsoft Paint, to create you an image of anything, and it'll go off and create one. And I'm not saying you should use that and pretend it's your own work, but you could use it to inspire you. If you're looking for inspiration to your next project, or you could be using it maybe in woodwork and construction, where you're going, show me how that would look if it was like this, and then using that to because I mean every piece of work that we create is created based on previous people's work, and that's not plagiarism. That's just how we evolve. Everything that if you design a new car, if a car can be designed as a new car, it's going to take aspects from other cars. Otherwise, you'd end up with a completely different type of thing that nobody can understand how to control. It's going to have a steering wheel indicator on the left. It's going to have certain standard things which are taken from previous designs, and it's not like with it's plagiarism. I mean, it would be plagiarism if you copied the entire car, including all the exact engine specification. But there are certain things we build on the past, and I think train the staff just to so they're at least aware of some aspects of AI. They could then start to think if they want to introduce it. And I think the students are using this regardless, whether it's brought into the college or not. So it's better that everybody understands it, and then try and embrace it, because yeah, like I say, the students are using it anyway. It's a bit like when computers probably first came out, and people were maybe in English classes, they were going, well, we're just writing, we don't need computers, we're not doing any mathematics. But obviously these days computers are used for in all subjects. So I think AI is going to be similar. It's just a tool to add to your tool belt, along with a lot of other tools. And knowledge is power, I suppose. So it's not saying that you have to use it for everything, because I think it's almost like everything. If there's some conference about something, they'll probably bring AI into it to make it sound exciting. It is a buzzword, and it is used a lot at the moment, but it is something that I think everyone needs a good understanding of, to a certain extent anyway, and especially in the education environment. So that's it for me for this. Thank you.
Now let's look at thought-provoking reflection. And before we move on, here's something to think about. Generative AI is here to stay, and it offers incredible opportunities to improve teaching, learning, and operational efficiency. But it also raises some big questions about the future of education. Are we using AI to enhance learning outcomes, or are we risking over reliance on technology? How do we strike the right balance between embracing innovation and maintaining the human touch in education? And perhaps the most important question for us in the MIS community: how can we lead the way in ensuring AI is used ethically, securely, and in ways that genuinely benefit students and staff? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please feel free to share your views after listening. Okay, so now we're going to go to the our next part. We've looked at the news, the main news. We're looking at our core news, but today we're doing a follow up from last week's episode, where we looked at the provisional QAR that was published early January this year. Um, so I'm just going to hand over to Robin to help clarify some of the points we spoke about um, last week in respect to the QAR and also the softwares, the software used, for example, and we spoke about ProAchieve to help clarify updates related to the mismatch and also things to look out for and how to go about making sure your data is as accurate in your own software as it is in QAR that was published. So I'll hand over to Robin. So thank you so much, Robin, once again. Thank you.
And hello, Ben. Thank you for having me again. Yeah, so it seems that I think just after we published the last episode, Advanced released an update to ProAchieve, which will allow the QAR, because the issue that I highlighted last week was that you couldn't actually generate the 23-24 QAR using ProAchieve, and because obviously the provisional R14 QAR came out from the government in the dashboard. So what everyone wants to do then is look at their internal data and compare that to the dashboard that the government has published to see if it matches. And I think what some people were finding was obviously that, well, they couldn't generate a QAR summary, and the standard summary wasn't matching. Whereas looking at Strata, it looked like that software was matching with the version that was out last week. Although that's cloud-based, so it doesn't exactly have, because it's kind of maintained by them, so you don't have to kind of install patches. But the QAR update version of ProAchieve is now out on the portal, and the One Advanced customer support portal has also changed recently, but the downloads are still on the old portal, so that's customers.oneadvanced.com. So you go to the downloads, and you need 25.1 of ProAchieve, and there's also, and as well as the 25.1 download, there's also a QAR summary file. That's under the Pro General section, because you need to obviously update Pro General before you update Pro Achieve. So 25.1 of Pro General, then there's the 2324 QAR AIM reference file, which you have to import to enable that summary option to appear, because when you create a summary in Pro Achieve, if you haven't downloaded that file, the option to generate a QAR for 2324 isn't there. But so you've got to do the Pro General 25.1, the Pro Achieve 25.1, and then import the QAR AIM reference file in the new Pro General once you've updated it. And then if you do that and check again, you obviously have to re-summarize your summaries, I think. Yeah, and summarize the data, create the new summary for 23-24 QAR, and then see if that matches. And then you should find, from what's been said, that'll hopefully match your data. And because yeah, so with the different QARs, you've got the R10 QAR in July, and then you've got the R12 in August, and then the R14 provisional in January, which is where we're up to now. And then that's because people, you have a window of time, which I think believe ends Friday the 31st of January, to submit any queries or changes to the ESFA, and then they publish the final one around towards the end of March. So we haven't, if you haven't updated your ProAchieve and your ProGeneral and checked yet, it's worth doing it before the deadline, and just to check your data and be confident that what they're reporting is accurate for your college. Because obviously, if you don't report it now, then that becomes the official data, and it's too late to make changes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Um, yeah, so that's a kind of very important, and obviously you can download your own QR data sets, um, and then you get the Excel file for ENT and a separate one for the apprenticeship, where you can actually filter out and look at the raw data behind the scene. So you can also use the exclusion every filter to see each of the record and see which one counts and which one does not count, and then link it up to your collect data set and really identify. So there's a lot of ways to really pinpoint to see where there's a mismatch. Um, and then, like Robin said, the R10 is quite a key date stamp as well, even for funding, where you have your year-end media claim and year-end claims. So there's a law R10 linked R10 ILR return. So it's quite good to be able to clear your data. So whatever is in your R10 for funding purposes is relatively what is there, and there's no data that is not being resolved. And so when the R10 in-year QAR is published, um, then you know that yes, you start having a good idea what your qualification and achievement rates are like, and to further help you to plan for the end of the academic year 24-25. Um, Obviously, before then, we've got the R06, which is due next week on the 6th of February. That's quite key, um, particularly for for 16 to 80 funding as well, and for your mid-year funding claim as well. So these are quite key date stamp for data quality checks, funding implications, where you might have newer 16 to 18 starts in January. And if it's significant, you want to make sure all the data is clear for your R06 return, because the government will also do a check in your R06 to see if there's a big increase in your number of 16 to 18 funded learners compared to R04. And they take that into account when they look into your 25-26 learner number allocation. Um, Also, we know that the government are looking to give an in-year increase in funding for 16 to 18 funding. So that I think we're going to get more data after the R06, sometimes in March, for the potential in-year increase in 16 to 19 funding, and also publication of the um, allocation calculation toolkits, to further help in planning for your 25-26 funding. That's it for this week's episode. We've covered the UK government's new AI in education guidance, um, and also followed up on QAR data accuracy, breaking down key updates and next steps for colleges. Uh, don't forget, R06 is due next week, February the 6th, with the mid-year funding claim. And then data quality now will impact funding and future allocations. So stay on top of it, your data, make sure your learning numbers is also further accurate for RSS, particularly for 16 to 18, and your mid-year claim. So yeah, got thoughts or questions? Please drop us a comment or message. We'd love to really hear from you. Until next time, keep your data clean and your MIS game strong. And so, thank you once again, and it's so great to have you once again with us. Looking forward
Thanks,
to next
Ben.
weekend. And thank you once again for Robin. Thank you, and say goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.